but we do have some action on night number 2 of the 2024-25 college basketball season. No ranked teams in action tonight, as we saw a ton of them yesterday, but some marquee matchups to know. Rice and FIU, 5.5-point spread. Texas Tech, 28.5-point favorite against Bethune-Cookman. We got Kansas State, should be a good year for Jerome Tang and company in the Big 12. They're laying 28.5. Could be a really good year for BYU. This Cougars team in Big 12 play, one to keep an eye on, 29.5-point favorite. Washington's Big 10 debut as a program, new head coach in Danny Sprinkle. He brings over one of the Mountain West Players of the Year. That's Great Osobor, now playing for the Huskies. They're laying 13.5 against UC Davis. And Arizona State, who got walloped, did Bobby Hurley against his alma mater in Duke in an exhibition game. Sun Devils 18.5-point favorite against Idaho State. Anything catch your eye tonight, Joe Ranieri?
Yeah, I'm going to be very interested in seeing Arizona State, and can the Hurley brother keep up here? Is he on a hot seat with his other brother there at UConn, who once again is looking to win a third straight championship that nobody thinks they can do? I think Arizona State, I think they're poised to make a pretty good run here this year. I would not be at all afraid to lay that number there, because I do think he's looking to come out and make a big statement here tonight at Arizona State.
Kevin Young, the new head coach for BYU, brings over some NBA experience. BYU is recruiting really well right now. What a time for the Cougs. 22nd in the Ken Palm rankings, by the way. Joe Ranieri, we appreciate the time on this Tuesday. Next up, we're going to focus with Jon Rothstein on some college hoops. But we love the action numbers. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday here on Sports Grid. More of the early line next. Sure, this might only be the second day of the 2024-25 college basketball season. Sure, this is only November. But this is how you know a new college basketball season is fully underway. Jon Rothstein joins us live right here on this Tuesday on the early line on Sports Grid. On behalf of the FanDuel Sportsbook and, of course, the best college basketball insider, in my humble opinion, working for CBS Sports. Jon Rothstein, we are so happy to have you here on this Tuesday to tip off a new college basketball campaign. Can't wait to get your thoughts on the season and the opening day of the year yesterday as well.
Ben, great to be with you, and I think I speak candidly when I say great to finally talk to you in person for the first time.
I know, man. It has been too long. No off-season beers for us this time, Jon Rothstein, on the Upper East Side. Maybe we'll change that at some point throughout this college hoops season. Busy day yesterday, John. 356 Division I men's and women's college basketball games, and it ended with a top 10 tilt out in Spokane between 6th-ranked Gonzaga and number 8 Baylor. But with a 38-point win, John, for the Zags, in my notes, I was going to ask you, John, what was your main takeaway for this season opener for both Gonzaga and Baylor? We don't really need the main takeaway. Gonzaga was overwhelmingly impressive. But what stood out to you most about the Zags in the 38-point dominating win over Baylor?
We spend so much time celebrating new additions, whether it's through the transfer portals, especially in this climate, or five-star freshmen, that retention is not celebrated enough or focused on enough in this current climate of college sports. Look at the two teams last season that played in the national championship game, UConn and Purdue. 7 of the 10 players that started in that game were in those respective programs the season prior. And if you look at Gonzaga's breakdown roster-wise entering the season, the Bulldogs returned over 75% of their scoring from last season's team that won 27 games and lost to Purdue in the Sweet 16. That includes 6 of their top 7 scorers from that unit. Baylor, while obviously extremely talented, was leaning on 2 impact transfers in Norchad Omier and Jeremy Roach, and also a 5-star freshman in VJ Edgecombe. Gonzaga had rhythm and chemistry. It showed.
Yeah, it certainly did. And when you look at Mark Few's team, Nolan Hickman back, team's leading scorer, 17 points. Graham Ike, 15 points as well. And Ryan Nembhard orchestrating the offense, John, double-digit dimes last night with 11. So, John, it's very early, right? We're still 5 months away from Final Four weekend in San Antonio. It's a long college basketball season here in non-con action into conference play, and then, of course, a tournament described as madness in March. But as we look at the 10 best prices to win a national championship this year on the FanDuel Sportsbook, if you had to highlight one of these 10 teams that you believe will be in the title conversation all season long, which program would that be?
I'm going to go with two. I'm going to take Houston and Alabama. Houston, to me, would have been in the Final Four last season had Jamal Shead not went down, obviously, with that devastating injury against Duke in the Sweet 16. Also, Ben, I remember this especially closely because I was with Houston, as a sideline reporter during the first two rounds of the NCAA tournament. Houston also last year did not have Terrence Arsenault, who was out with a season-ending injury, and did not have JoJo Tugler, their backup post player, who was out with a season-ending injury. So this rendition of Houston is going to be the deepest rendition that we have seen under Kelvin Sampson. And as far as Alabama goes, look, I can say without hesitation that this is the most anticipated season in the history of Alabama's basketball program. And it's because the Crimson Tide, who are coming off their first Final Four appearance in school history, are vastly better defensively than they were a season ago when they went to a Final Four. And the main reason why is the addition of Rutgers transfer Cliff Amore. Ben, the numbers don't lie. Last season, Alabama blocked 133 shots as a team. Amore blocked 93 by himself at Rutgers.
To anchor that defense, one of the woes for Nate Oates. The question never the offense. 110 points in the opener for Alabama last night. John, you see that group of four teams at 11-1 to win a national championship, only behind the favorites Duke. We'll talk about the talented Blue Devils and that young freshman class in just a moment. One of those groups, one of those teams, and the head coach on your screen, it's Dan Hurley's Huskies, the two-time reigning national champs in college basketball, looking to make history, trying to become the first three-time national champion back-to-back-to-back since the John Wooden days in the early 70s at UCLA. What will it take, John, for this Connecticut team to make history this season?
Well, there are two elements that I'm looking closely at right now for UConn. One is a big part of these back-to-back runs for UConn to win the national championship in 23 and 24 in convincing fashion was the two-headed monster at center. Sonogo and Klingon, and then Klingon and Samson Johnson. Samson Johnson and Taris Reed have to be dominant together for 40 minutes at the 5 spot. And then the perimeter for UConn has to be in a situation where it takes a major step forward, and that's directly correlated to St. Mary's transfer Aiden Mahaney. Dan Hurley told me when I spoke to him last week that Aiden Mahaney has to be somewhere in between what Tristan Newton was in his first year in UConn's program in 2023 and what Cam Spencer was in UConn's program in 2024. They need Aiden Mahaney to be close to an all Big East caliber player if UConn's going to have a chance to three-peat. But I want to point this out, Ben. UConn in the last 2 years has won 12 NCAA tournament games by an average of 21.7 points per game. So the Huskies don't have to be nearly as good as they've been to win it all once again. If UConn was 15 points worse than it was the last 2 years combined, it would still be beating opponents by almost 7 points per contest.
Yeah, it would be crazy. Quickly here, John, about 30 seconds left. The debut for Cooper Flagg and Duke last night, 96-62 in Durham, a cover as well. How did the national championship favorites entering the year look in their season opener?
You know, what you would expect in a bye game against Maine. We're not going to have a real feel for Duke against top-notch competition until 1 week today. They go mano-a-mano with Kentucky in the Champions Classic.
Now that is going to be incredible. Cooper Flagg, good. Con Knipple, great last night for the Blue Devils. Jon Rothstein, we think. More on the early line next. The college basketball season in 2024-25 now officially underway. A lot of men's basketball scores that we have brought you so far in these 3 hours. Let's look at the opening night of action in women's college basketball. It was nighttime out in Paris, but actually early in the afternoon out here stateside for a couple of marquee top 20 tilts under the Eiffel Tower, with the very talented Juju Watkins and USC taking on Ole Miss, and UCLA matching up against Louisville in some highly competitive games for some of the best teams in the country yesterday. USC surviving at the end, a couple of clutch free throws, not from Juju Watkins, but Kiki Ariafen to pull things through for the Trojans yesterday, who went cold from the floor against Ole Miss, but do survive. The Runnin' Rebs do cover as a 10.5-point underdog. UCLA laying near double digits as well against Louisville. The Cards cover, but do lose by 7, 66-59. UCLA made a deep run to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament a year ago before their season came to a close against LSU. How about the reigning national champs, who have won 2 national championships in the last 3 years? That, of course, is Don Staley's Gamecocks in South Carolina. Number 1 in the country and laying more than 20 yesterday out in Las Vegas against Michigan, a tournament team a season ago. Just a 6-point win for South Carolina, who is often dominant in non-conference action. Not the case yesterday. The Wolverines keep it close, 68-62 the final. I still think South Carolina is the rightful, deserved, and the best pick to win a national championship at plus 155, as we'll show you in just a moment. There it is. Notre Dame not all that far behind at a 6-1 number. And again, keep an eye on this very talented team this season, led by Hannah Hidalgo, one of the best point guards in the country. 6 steals yesterday for the Irish. Olivia Miles scoring 20 points for Notre Dame. They roll over Mercyhurst. LSU has lost a lot of pieces, of course, in the last 2 years, but they are still stacked under Kim Mulkey. Flau'jae Johnson still there. LSU knocking off Eastern Kentucky, winning by 51, 95-44. If you don't know the name Audie Crooks, I would start to pay attention. One of the best bigs in women's college hoops leads 8th-ranked Iowa State to a 96-56 victory over Chicago State in the season opener. Plenty of other action yesterday around women's college basketball to start off this new season. Nebraska handles Omaha in the in-state rivalry, winning by 40. Last year, a really good team for the Cornhuskers, making it to the NCAA tournament. Indiana has been great under Terry Morton. When you look at their number, 82-60 yesterday in the victory against Brown. And Alabama women's basketball, also ranked entering the year, they go absolutely nuclear yesterday. 115 points for Alabama. The men's side scored 110. The women's team putting up 115. So just some names and some numbers to pay attention to start off a new season in college hoops. Did want to make this point for UConn. That's men's basketball. Women's basketball team, as you saw just moments ago, second best number to win a national championship, led by Paige Beckers. They are going to be great this year in stores under Gino Auriemma once again. That 4-1 number. The Connecticut Huskies on the men's side, an 11-1 price, tied in that group of 4 programs for the second best number behind Duke. UConn opens their season tomorrow against Sacred Heart. No ranked teams in action on this second day of the college basketball season on the men's side to start this season. We will see some more tomorrow. So maybe that paves the way for a huge night in college football. Again, those college football playoff rankings for the first time in the 12-team era, for the first time this year in 2024. We have appreciated the AP poll, but after tonight, it takes a back seat. It's how the selection committee is seeing the country in college football. And I like to get a little bit mad at the committee at some times because I don't think they do a great job of standard operating procedure, protocol for how they carry things over and what is most important year to year, week to week throughout these rankings. And these first rankings will set the stage, because again, you have to work your way up or work your way back. And you will have to be ranked in front of teams for an at-large berth. And for those 5 highest-ranked conference champs, it's not just being in the top 5, it's also being some of the 4 highest-ranked to earn that opening round bye. I hope they set a precedent tonight in criteria that continues for a season. And how about some action football, maybe leaning under in both? The early line returns tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern time on a Wednesday.